Following up to the Sri Lankan Civil War video, being examined through an evolutionary perspective, just to give you a little bit more detailed information in terms of my perspective, in case you guys want to question me with respect to my position. So, the Sri Lankan Civil War, in order for us to truly understand the nature of the hostilities between the Sinhalese and the Tamils, we need to understand how that came about during the colonization or towards the end of the colonization period and post-independence, in terms of the nationalism from the Sinhalese side and the hard stance from the Tamils in terms of what happened post Black Friday. So, to understand the identities or the national identities of both the Sinhalese and the Tamils, we need to understand that these are identities that emerged post colonization. Pre colonization, Sri Lanka was divided into multiple regional areas, and people were more loyal to their regional areas, irrespective of their religion. So during colonization, for administrative ease, they used ethnicity, race, and religion as categories, which solidified later played a role in the nationalist perspectives from both sides. Now, so post-independence, this is where the Buddhist nationalist ideology sort of basically came to the front in terms of affecting any sort of a single state solution with special autonomy for the Tamils. And this is where the Tamil separatist movements, with various sort of ways of trying to come to a common understanding about coming up with a one state solution. So post Black Friday, which is where during the fast, those students were assaulted and potentially tortured and killed, according to everyone who was around there at that time, or that was the story that was on the ground in Jaffna anyway. And so the riots happened because of the attack on some sort of a military convoy or some sort of a military station in Jaffna. The Black Friday event in Colombo happened where the riots took hold. And that is what started or pushed the LTT to the front. And they took that opportunity to silence all of their oppositions and consolidated power pretty brutally, and silenced all of the other voices who were still interested in creating a unified Sri Lanka. So the post the LTT takeover and the skirmishes that happened, the Indian peacekeepers and the hatred towards the Indians is because of the conduct of the Indian soldiers towards some of the Tamils, including rapes and all sorts of other stuff, which are provable, I guess, because there are people with the soldiers' genetics walking around now. That resulted probably in Rajiv Gandhi's murder or assassination that the Tigers were involved in, which changed the game for the Tigers, because at that point, India's support, even though it was hoping for a single state solution while working with the Tigers, kind of changed in the background, and their support started to drop off from the Indian side, irrespective of how much support they had in the south of India. So Tsunami, for example, would have been a great example to have worked together, which they did at some levels, but ultimately the same sort of issues crept up, and there was no opportunity for peace. And the final conflict, because of all the other activities from around the world with the Liberation Tigers, I guess there was a unified effort globally to put an end to the conflict, and the Sri Lankan government benefited from that support, and they were able to take out the LTT in 2009. So the reason I say all of this is because I am more interested in examining the hero worship that's happening on the ground in Western countries, especially with respect to Tamil youth, who it's some sort of a cultural aspect of hero worship that is, in my opinion, absolutely detrimental to the Tamil diaspora worldwide, because there is an element of propaganda that's been woven into this hero worship that needs to be examined. Now, the Tamil Tigers, when they came into power, I mean, they were absolutely brutal against all of their opposition. They brutalized and killed off all the leaders they can get their hands on, and everybody who was in opposition at that point had a choice. They either, they had to leave the country as fast as possible, or they had to toe the line or risk death. So everybody fell in line, and the Tigers basically consolidated power that way. And any opposing voices, like, for example, one of my family members, Senator Nataraja, who was assassinated simply because he was still attempting to function within the governmental system. So the Tigers need to be understood for exactly who they were. I mean, they forcefully recruited children. They participated in all sorts of illegal activities in terms of fundraising, and they also made it pretty brutal for new immigrants here, because I mean, some of them were forced to give a percentage of their checks in some cases, and some people were forced to participate in that. And the people who were actually fundraising all are now probably business owners in some levels, because they weren't being completely honest in terms of the activities that they were participating in terms of financing the war. So the hero worship now requires a little bit more detailed way of looking at it. Now, the hero worship was woven into it by the Tiger leadership, because even from when I remember, there was some sort of a LTT cadre who died in 1987, and there was this mournful music that was being played by loudspeakers everywhere to celebrate him as some sort of a hero. And even then, as a child, I was like a little suspicious of that level of forced grief on the entire population because of the actions of a few that we were all supposed to consider as heroes. Then, of course, post 2009, the activities that happened in Sri Lanka, where they were behind and covering themselves with civilians in heavily populated areas, instead of giving themselves up, which would have been easier, and which would have been an easier way for all those civilians to have been saved, which is an opportunity that they had, but they chose to fight till the end, and a lot of innocent civilians were trapped and killed within the area because of the decisions on both sides. But ultimately the Tigers had an opportunity if representing the Tamil population was their actual agenda. So this hero worship element is I think insidious, because it's eroding away the actual the original Tamil culture of tolerance and understanding, and being able to function that way with the world. Now, with this isolationist stance and this intent to sort of bring or to highlight the values and the morals of a lost Tamil civilization, which was the Sangamera morals that the Tamils tend to project, is completely false if we're being honest with ourselves. Because in 2026, there's no way for any of us to function like the Sangam Tamils did, for example. But it's a incredible opportunity, because we're in a multicultural space, and we need to recognize the value of all the other groups who share Canada with us and the other parts of the world with us, because I mean, they have their perspectives, and their perspectives are also valid, and they're not interested in they might be interested in considering Tamils and Sangamera Tamil morals for consideration, but they're not interested in sort of our morality or the Tamil Sangam morality being projected, especially by people who are part of the Dravidian movement, who are sort of tying that aspect of our culture to the present, trying to sort of project themselves as some sort of moral authority, when in reality their conduct and their actions, especially considered from an evolutionary perspective, is somewhat suspect because of the type of inflection points that arise that require consideration. So that's the additional information I wanted to give with respect to that video. let me know if you guys have any questions.